I invite Honorable Pro-Chancellor Professor Milind Padalkar to formally initiate the session. Sir.
And good afternoon, all students. Welcome back to the continuing series of the NorthCap Masterclass, a series that brings you the eminent thinkers, leaders, experts with their insights into what is going on. And you will agree with me that there is a lot going on. The pandemic that we have experienced in the last 18 months or so has only accelerated that. So what has changed? Fundamentally, as human beings, we need basics, food, clothing, shelter, etc. But we need much more than that. We need our personal accessories, we need experiences, we need education, we need health, we need to be secure, so we need insurance, and we need to acquire wealth. We need to develop ourselves. So, as human beings, our needs are truly large. Some of them are discretionary. For instance, the soaps and perfumes and personal accessories that I use, well, economists call them discretionary. On the other hand, some things aren't. And increasingly, what used to be discretionary earlier isn't discretionary anymore, which is telecom. The little instrument that you all carry around with you and use it for a variety of purposes, including very innovative ones, that's not discretionary, that is necessity now. And who can tell you better than somebody who has been involved in a lot of things that human beings need, from fast-moving consumer goods to a major career in telecom itself. So let me introduce to you our speaker of today. Pradeep has more than 2 decades of senior leadership experience in turning around and managing rapidly growing businesses and establishing brands in multi-country, multicultural contexts. He has managed large format operations in the telecom sector in India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Nepal. Top management positions, including the Chief Communications Officer at and Axiata, Nepal, President Marketing at Jio, Member of Board of Directors, Excel Axiata, and CMO at Idea Cellular. His leadership style is determined by a strong work ethic, an innovative approach, a can-do attitude, and building high-performance teams. BA from IIM Ahmedabad and a BA from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. He will be speaking to you about being ready for skills required in a digital world. Towards the end or during the talk, if you have any questions, the chat box will be open towards the end. You can type your chats, and Payal and I will moderate the questions at the end. Over to you, Pradeep.
Thank you very much, Professor Milind and Payalji, for a very kind introduction. I have a colleague from Nepal, Santara, so I request her to put a brief presentation more as a discussion starter. I'm really delighted to meet people who are joining diverse courses. And if you had joined these courses, say 10, 15 years back, then it would have been end of a journey that, well, you're an MBA and you will get a nice job, or you are an engineer, and I'm sure there are interesting companies to work for, or a lawyer. But things have changed quite dramatically now. Now people are talking about ethical dilemma. Or do I stay in the country and build India? Or do I now go for global career, which is warmly welcoming Indians? Do I stay in a public government or social enterprise sector? Or do I go for startup of my own, make tons of money, get name for myself? So there are a variety of challenges and tremendous range of opportunities which are available today for people at your age bracket, which perhaps was not thought about many years or decades back. So what we have to also recognize that opportunities are knocking at our door, but they will come only to the people who are most prepared for them. So question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we ready for tomorrow? Are we having the right kind of skills in a digital world which is facing us? I know that the next year or next few years are going to be very exciting, perhaps the most memorable phase of your life, because you will keep looking back and say, look, I really created some building blocks of my thinking. I created friends which lasted a long lifetime. And who knows, there could be a special person right there in this group who could become your soulmate going forward. So phenomenal things will happen to you. But let me focus on business. Santara, next slide, please. We have to ask ourselves, what is it that we intend to do and how is it that we intend to do it? Santara, next slide, please.
Yes.
What is facing us today is a range of new possibilities which sometimes don't get taught at the universities. Sometimes they are not really very tangible areas which are understood by people. So globally, people are researching and saying, what do we need 10 years from today? What do we indeed need 20 years from today? And the web is filled with this information, whether it is coming from World Economic Forum or leading players like McKinsey and others. They have predicted what is it that is needed 10 years from now. So as you join in a few years' time, what can be considered uncharitably the bottom of the food chain or the long tail of your career, what you have to climb up from there in 5 or 10 years' time would be skills that is best learned today, formally or informally at the universities. I know of many universities who, for example, may not be starting design thinking courses. If such courses are not there, maybe you should start a club and learn amongst yourself or with a mentor or a professor who can guide you into that journey. So suddenly we are faced with situations which are not taught in a very structured manner in formal universities, even globally. Forget about India alone. For example, creativity. How do you learn creativity? There are certain schools and colleges who talk about critical thinking, but it's not very common subject. How do I build confidence? How do I do people management and team management, which turns out to be a lifelong journey? Things are changing quite dramatically. Large format data is available, but just because data is available doesn't mean that you have capabilities for fairly advanced analytics, an area which is changing virtually every month, every quarter. Similarly, the use of AI. I mean, the world is opening up at a pace, the learning is opening up at a pace which are unprecedented. And honestly, it can be overwhelming for anybody. Even after years of career, sometimes we find things to be totally new in our context. I mean, let's take example of telecom industry, where I have worked for the last 20 years. Suddenly somebody says, let's launch 5G. It's a completely new ball game. So all of you must prepare yourself to positions 5, 10 years down the line in areas which are going to be completely new, and just a brick and mortar or nuts and bolts knowledge of management or some knowledge of law or knowledge of your engineering, it would not suffice you to create a success for yourself in that. Because I'm sure that at a young age, and many of us throughout their career, they want to make impact, they want to add value, and these are the areas that will help you add values. Obviously all of them is not possible, so whatever is of exciting possibilities for you, it would be better to become a master of it. It would be better to start developing skills in this area. Next one, Santara. So essentially what's happening now, that life is going more digital. Now you will say, what's the new about it? So for that, I will have to ask you to imagine that you're sitting right now in Korea or in Japan or in Silicon Valley. Now that is a digital life that neither you nor I are experiencing right here, right now in Gurgaon. So you have to really gear up for a digital life where everything changes. And I will give you some examples of it a bit later. But at this stage, I just want to take a point that everything is going to change. The businesses of yesteryear were based on craftsmanship. Then they were based on institutionalizing and industrializing certain activities. Then we got into the information age. And now suddenly you're talking about businesses which never ever existed. We are talking about platform businesses which are barely beginning to open themselves up in countries like India, and they really become winner take all businesses. They really change the paradigm completely, and with that, the hierarchy of organization, the pace at which you can grow, the kind of resource requirement, the kind of customers you can attract, indeed, the kind of one on one interaction you can have with your consumers, diminishing role of intermediaries, competition which can come from other categories, the use of new tools like AI, which can change consumer experiences in terms of why they should come to you, buy you, stay with you, and enhance their service usage from your offers. Everything is going to change. So it is very important that you brace yourself up for digital life. It is not sufficient to say that, look, I'm an MBA from a prestigious university, or I'm an engineer from a prestigious university. This is not going to support you to grow further. So it's very important to look at how many new businesses have now come in, and they are challenging the status quo businesses. In fact, that even universities globally are getting challenged in terms of how do they redefine themselves for a new world which is largely going to be online, for a new world where connectivity, networking, etc. becomes as important. And that's the reason why people join top university, because alumnus network is very strong, rather than for learning, some of which is easily available on the web free of cost. Next one, please. So you have to really ask yourself, how is it that I am going to fit in a world which is 5, 10, 15 years from now? I'm not taking you to what's going to happen. Let me give some examples from what is currently happening. What you see here are some of the globally successful business who are disrupting the status quo. I'm sure all of you have enjoyed entertainment anytime from Netflix, which has completely changed the media habits from, say, television, to which previous generation, maybe your elder brother and sisters and cousins, used to be addicted to. And suddenly Netflix is anytime, anywhere, top quality global content. Uber, another thing that you have experienced. Now imagine as Uber moves to driverless car, for which experiments have already started, and it's a matter of time that is going to scale up in a very big way. Imagine a driverless car having an accident with another driverless car, and God forbid, the passenger dies in one of the car. So there are serious legal implications in terms of who can make insurance claim with whom. This is just to take an example that a changed context of economy is going to dramatically change the business model. And that's why design thinking becomes very important. Because people may not buy car, they may just rent a service. They may rent a tire or a tube of a vehicle. They may rent an AI system of a vehicle. So you have to really understand that even going electric with Tesla is going to dramatically change, because what will happen to the garage, which are actually servicing and maintaining the spare parts? What will happen to alternate sources of energy, which are going to become more and more important? So I give some examples like Ant Group. And I was fascinated with a study of Ant Group, where micro loan to rural community in China can be given in 5 minutes flat. In 5 minutes, they can get the loan because their credit rating is available with Ant Group. Their behavior is available with Ant Group. They know what kind of credit and limits can be given. Within 5 minutes, the loan is approved. Now, these entities are competing. Ant Group, for example, is competing with one of the with largest banks globally in terms of the size of portfolio they have. So these are not some experiments in some corner. They have already become the largest entities. Similarly, when Amazon Fresh can deliver through a drone anytime, anywhere, it dramatically changes the consumption behavior. I'm sure some of you are also already experiencing a bit of it in your own country. Or wearable technology, which started in late 90s, is obviously in the last 20 years has traveled some distance, And it's a matter of time where augmented reality and knowing the person, imagine the person in front of you, and you have got all the digital footprint, including Facebook, reading, and all the holidays that the person has taken right in front of you. It enriches the interaction with that person. It takes away privacy completely. So, how would wearables get into a space that was never there? I'm sure some of you are aware that Moderna, which has come out with COVID vaccine recently, actually has developed a messenger therapeutic technology. That means they know how to enter a human body, and it can be a cancer treatment medicine which can come in, or it could be a COVID treatment medicine. Sometime in January 2020, when China released the DNA sequence of the coronavirus, within a month they had a prototype ready. Even today, AIDS prototypes are not ready. AIDS vaccine prototypes are not available globally. But Moderna could manage to do a corona prototype within a month, and within 6 months, it was a commercial production, fastest in the history of mankind in terms of previous pandemics. So the marketplace is changing dramatically. I can give you many more examples, like medical imaging in Zebra, which is an Israeli company, and suddenly you have a situation where they have got complete details about, say, certain type of diseases, and you can use AI to predict at a level which only the topmost doctor in your Vedanta and other places can do, and 99% doctors cannot predict. So diagnostics become at a significantly more sophisticated level with entities like Zebra, which are obviously going global now. I don't know how many of you are following esports, but once I started getting into it, because we participate and shall we say associate with these entities, is unbelievable. 20, 30, 40,000 people in a sporting arena with prize money matching the prize money of the biggest physical sports event, and that's an e-sport for you. So you are having a situation where the new platform businesses are dramatically changing the way businesses get done. And whether you like it or not, it is not your choice. Whether you like it or not, best amongst you will find yourself in these places globally. And that requires a different skill set. Booking.com at any point of time is doing over 1,000 experiments at any point of time. Should I put a booking action window on the left bottom or right bottom? Should I put yellow color or green color? 1,000 experiment going on at any point of time in booking.com, which you know is the largest online travel agency. So you need to have the skill of A/B testing of booking.com. You need to know how to create content of Netflix. You need to understand the legal implication of a driverless car having an accident with another driverless car, and the list just goes on. The skills required for tomorrow are going to be dramatically different from skills required for yesterday. Next slide, please. So essentially, it you have to operate it at two levels. One is that you have to create your own ecosystem. You have to create your own network, your own community. And this community will come in handy in a rapidly changing world where employment has got replaced by employability, where a certain knowledge of the past which may become obsolete has become substituted by skill sets that you carry with yourself, where you should have need to have an ability to keep changing yourself given a changed context, where role of intermediaries are going to come down, where you have to use and establish and continue to cultivate connections that would be helpful for you, your startup business, for your entities in a future date. And basically, you have to start working in a much larger ecosystem, sometime your own ecosystem, sometime participating in some of the ecosystem. This obviously what I'm telling you is has to be much more purposeful. It can't be just one more Insta account or one more Facebook post. That is not going to be sufficient. You have to examine how a network of relationship can come in to help you, and how you can help the network of relationship over a period of time, because I can guarantee you that I was very lucky to have stable jobs in top companies and life goes on. But majority of you, especially amongst you, the successful people, will find yourself going through roller coaster, reinvention of industries, changed context, sometime going down deeply, sometime having an opportunity to go up to unbelievable heights. This will require a completely different skill set for doing things. So essentially, these are some of the points I wanted to mention. I just wanted to share because I come from a business, telco business background. So I said, how do I tell you that even a simple thing like how do I engage with a consumer, how do I communicate to the consumer, how do I emotionally connect with the consumer, how do I make them love our brand, the stories have changed over a period of 10, 15 years. So I'm giving example from my own career on how maybe 10, 15 years back I was doing some advertising, how the entire approach changed maybe 5 7 years back, and how are we doing today, and I know that tomorrow is going to be very different. So maybe I'll request my colleague Santara to just share with you uninterrupted a series of commercial, some of them very old, some of them recent, and some of them future. Santara, may I just have some videos, please?
Sure.
आज तो घुमियार रहेंगे या हम एक भी कुर्मी बचना नहीं चाहिए। पकड़ कुर्मी को घुमियार सरपंच जी पहले कुर्मियों ने शुरू किया था। उंगली चट्टा आइडिया ना कोई थुमियार ना कोई पुरमी, कोई भी अपने नाम से नहीं जाना जाएगा। 99922626 98481234 के लड़का हुआ 99243064 सर जी, व्हाट एन आइडिया सर जी।
Next one, please. It was sufficient to be large canvas, but you will see in future how things change just to engage with your consumers. Next one, please.
अरे अरे अन्नर कहाँ गए?
बच्चे को स्कूल में पढ़ाना है,
एडमिशन फुल है।
चलिए भाई साहब, गांव में स्कूल नहीं है तो कैसे पढ़ेगी? मेरे पोती को भर्ती करो। गांव में स्कूल नहीं है तो कैसे पढ़ेगी? अरे वो पढ़ेगी।
एक स्कूल में सबको कैसे पढ़ाऊं? आइडिया।
Good morning, children.
Good morning, children.
चुप. Good morning, teacher बोलो.
Good morning, teacher.
Good.
2 3s are 6. 2 3s are 6.
2 5s are
10.
E4.
Teacher, elephant.
कौन कर रहा है बच्चे? कॉपी. मुर्गा बन जाओ. Q4. S4.
Left, right, left.
Come on. Get the loud and broken down and kill them down and up.
And the best student of the year is Lakshmi Raghav.
सर जी.
What an idea, Sarji.
So, in big canvas, imagining something futuristic gave way, and these are Bengali ads, so I apologize for the language. But suddenly you are saying, how can I build a community? So some examples from Bangladesh in terms of community building.
খালাম মামিটা লই
না লাগবে না,
লই না
তুমি এইটা নাও,
ধরেন
এটা তোমার জন্য।
আমি তো রোজা
শোনো, সন্ধ্যায় আমাদের সাথে ইফতার করো। আসো।
আমার ইফতারটা বাসায় লয়ে যাই। আমার বইনের রোজা।
হ্যালো ভাবি, আমার একটা প্ল্যান আছে।
অবশ্যই সম্ভব।
হ্যাঁ, প্রতিদিনই সম্ভব।
পরস্পরের পাশে থেকে আমরাই পারি পবিত্র রমজানকে আরো সার্থক করে তুলতে। জ্বলে উঠুন আপন শক্তিতে। রবি।
In fact, we created a community pack, and now there are over 4 million customers in Bangladesh for that. Let's take the next commercial, please. Sorry, next one, please. Yeah. This is building community of citizen journalists. People obviously want to know, what can you do for me now? So this is example from Nepal, similar language Nepali.
Waiting for fast forward much so much more.
Streaming को बीचमा data pack भयो end. Recharge कसरी गर्ने? Oh my god, gotta ask a friend. अब सँगै हेर्छौँ हामी fast forward गरी. एकै क्लिकमा पाऊँ मजा थरी थरी.
Top of the minute, offers turning. एक-एकमा छ नि अब मजा जम्मै. खोला एकै छिनमा like fast forward गर. नयाँ प्याक लिनु छ तर छैन cash.
यति सानो कुराले तिमी नछोड न आश. Debit card, credit card, अब सबै मन्जुर. एकै क्लिकमा पाऊँ अब सबै हजुर.
Service सेन्टरको अब छोड न चक्कर.
हातमा कुरामा किन र कर.
Download गर when you want to be free.
अब हाम्रो सर्फिङ निस्पिक अझ पनि what are you waiting for? Fast forward not so much more.
अब नयाँ एन्सर एप डाउनलोड गर्दा पाउनुहोस् 1 GB फ्री डेटा, लेटेस्ट अफर्स, अनलाइन रिचार्ज एन्ड सो मच मोर। आजै एन्सर एप डाउनलोड गरी आफ्नो जिन्दगी फास्ट फरवर्ड गरौँ। एन्सेल, आज भोलि सधैँ सँगै।
So increasingly here and now. So one is building community, but now what can you do for me now? So this is another example.
Fast
Next
forward
one,
much
please.
so much.
Mic check. Look, एउटा लाइफ तर स्टाइल मेरो भिन्नै. आफ्नो जुत्तामा हिँड्छु म खुसी छु दिनकै. I feel like everything's going faster. I'm a speedy dude cause I started getting jazzed up. Got no bad thoughts हरेक दिन मेरो clear mind. मेरो हरेक second got more than enough time. विभिन्न रङ रूपले भरिएको संसार. And sell too fast, too forward.
We started doing the business with the gun, which is it, which scripted with the left gun. Gotcha. Try it, yo.
Want more Facebook, YouTube and TikTok? Triple Maza Pack ko साथ अब एउटै मूल्यमा Facebook, YouTube र TikTok को मजा. Starting from rupees 109 per week, आजै asterisk 17123# डायल गर्नुहोस्.
Next slide, please. So essentially what we wanted to share with you here, next slide, please. What we want to share with you here is that things have changed from large canvas storytelling to building community to really catching up with attention economy, where people want to know what can you do for me now, and going digital. So earlier, if digital was a single digit 3, 4, 5% of total investment, today we are talking about 40, 50% of investment going digital, which allows you a detailed analytics in terms of what is working, what kind of people are watching a certain kind of video. So even in a advertising field, because many of you from MBA may be interested to know how to connect with the customer, suddenly the things have changed from a commercial which used to be there on television to engagement where you're creating not one or two but hundreds of variants depending on the customer type who's being with you. Next one, please. So the game has changed in the last 10 years. Now, essentially, you have to ask yourself which space you want to participate in it. It's going to be a bit naive to say that I'm going to be master of all. So you have to decide which skills are inherently good for you, which you like to hone those skills, because nobody can take that away from you. How do you network and how do you inspire each other? Because you are in a non-competitive space right now in the college. Trust me, things will change. Of course, the degrees can vary. If you are working for an Amazon or a Walmart or a Geo, it's going to be significantly more competitive. If you are working in organizations, individual competition and rat race will definitely be there. But right now, as you go through this college education, a lot of things can be done to inspire each other, to work with each other, to learn from each other, and in the process make lifelong friends. So essentially, to prepare yourself for tomorrow, you got to start working today. I know that some of you would be saying that, okay, it doesn't matter, I will cruise through this particular phase of college and then I'll figure out what to do. I wish you luck for that, because things are going to hit you very hard. If they don't hit you very hard, trust me, they will hit your company very hard. If they don't hit your company very hard, trust me, even a country can get disrupted. For example, last 2 years in COVID. I mean, half jokingly, even Taliban has to learn new lessons which they did not want to learn 20 years back. Otherwise, they will have a potential situation at hand. So the limited point I'm making is you have a golden opportunity as you start your college career. Make full use of it, but do it in a manner that is going to make you relevant in a global economy, in a digital platform business, in a future of startup, etc., 5 or 10 years from now. Next slide, please. Essentially, I would like to close at least the trigger point of the discussion by saying that I have confidence that the young generation, especially after going through a rigorous selection process of your university, are definitely ready for it. And I wish you all the best for that, because I know that just by adding some more master strokes of the skills, by better understanding of changing profile of businesses, economies, and industries, you would be even better placed to win in the markets of tomorrow. So this is what I had to say, but I think we had planned it that for the next 15, 20 minutes, we can have interactions. If you have any questions or comment, may I request Professor Bilin to guide us in terms of how do we take the next steps.
Thank you, Pradeep. That was a fascinating talk. It is, I'm sure it has given a lot of takeaways and thinking points to everybody, me included. Now, I think the chat is open. Students, if you want to ask any questions, I saw some hands coming up during the talk. Please write down your questions. Abhishek has a question. All right, while we wait for students to gather their thoughts and ask questions, I have a couple from my side, Pradeep.
Sure, Professor.
You have experience in multiple cultures. Do you see specific differences or do you see some commonalities across the cultures as you see youngsters networking, connecting, working together, etc.?
Professor, I was very lucky that in all my overseas assignment, there's a difference in being a tourist to a country, which all of us do, difference in making some short-term visit to a country, which many of us do. But trust me, it is dramatically different when you live in a country. Let me take an example which will sound very odd to you. I don't want to talk about Malaysia, Indonesia, or Europe, etc. Let me talk about adjoining countries. I don't want to name some telcos who entered Bangladesh market and called it one more circle of their telco business. And they failed and they had to sell off their company. The point I'm making is that Bangladesh is a young, proud nation which took its birth in 1971. People have pride in their language, in their culture, in their heritage. And just by going to the country and saying, hey, we are like each other, is not going to make a difference, even when 99% things are same, including some of the common proverbs that we use here, we use in Bangladesh also. Even then, there's a different culture, different dynamics, and different context of the market. Sitting here in Nepal, from where I'm calling with this beautiful backdrop of Mustang and Muktinath, it's a proud nation. It has never been subjugated. Unlike the hangover and hang up of the past, I studied at St. Stephen's, so I can talk about the hang up, and then all of us can talk about the hangover of the British Raj. So that is not something which is existing in Nepal. It's a proud nation which has never been subjugated. So I think understanding the cultural nuances is very important. It is very important because when you're dealing with people in a global setting, in a MS team call like this, you need to be sensitive to the culture. Some people are comfortable in first name basis, and some people don't want to be addressed like this. The dress codes change, the eating codes, everything changes. So I think anybody who is embarking on a global connect, sitting at India, or a global career, needs to be very, very careful about the cultural sensitivity of those places. So I hope I have answered that question from my direct experience, Professor Milind.
Sure.
So we have a question from a student. The question is, time never stops and nor does the world. A lot of jobs we see now will be out of the market in the coming few years, and to fulfill the employment, new jobs would be necessary. What are those kinds of industries that will come out in existence in the future, not just limited to India, but on a global level?
So I think human needs remain same. I remember being part of what we call Docomo Club. Docomo, you know, is a global giant in telecom industry, and they have associate companies across, and some of us get invited to global meets. And I remember a very senior person in Docomo in Tokyo telling us that human needs will not change. There's a need to connect with each other. So people will still make that call. People would still like to have that video conversation. Maybe a touch will get added because it's possible now. Vibration that you get on your mobile makes it possible to calibrate it. And if a mother is touching the forehead of a child, you can actually feel it. It's possible. The new technology of wearable already at experimental stage will make it possible that you can touch another human being. There are experiments happening in terms of smell. So there are a whole lot of unbelievable possibility in telecommunication. Forget about the images appearing in front of you in terms of um, uh, uh, distant learning, where teleconferences can be held with images of people. Now, point I'm making is communication and connect will continue. The way it happens is going to dramatically change. A doctor doesn't have to visit a village between 10 and 11, then take his motorcycle to go to another village between 2 and 3, and come back very tired at 5 o'clock at Delhi, Gurgaon. They can actually have 1 hour slot for each village and do a telemedicine activity. It is feasible. COVID has accelerated it, and it's a matter of time that you can do it. So right now, the wearable technology allows you to get full details about the health statistics of a person sitting wherever you are, including in a moving ambulance. So point I'm making is mother's love, the human universal truth will not go away. Desire to gain business profits not going to go away. Need for connectivity not going to go away. But the way it happens is going to change. So visionary amongst you will have your startup companies which will make it possible, and some very smart people amongst you will participate in a changed economy. And that's why I gave example of platform businesses where it is going to be possible for you to do it. But trust me, those companies, people are working day and night. There are Chinese competing with you, there are Koreans competing with you, and it's not a joke. Because if Chinese work, they work 18 hours a day during college life. So please understand that there's a different level of competition which is happening. I hope I have answered your question that human needs will keep changing, but it is not automatic that you will get the next job. You have to work towards it. You have to build new skills towards it, and you have to be prepared for it. And some of you, I hope, as Indian startups, some of you are going to actually create new trends. And that's what is most exciting part. I'm sure even Professor Milind will be excited if many of the students get into a startup culture.
Sir, thank you, sir. Our next question is that when you're talking about the skills required for tomorrow, like you gave the example of booking.com, then why aren't these included in the curriculum to make the students industry ready?
See, just like I'm sorry, I'm not the right person, Professor can add. Just like medicine has to undergo a lot of tests before it becomes a proven medicine for use by human, a knowledge has to go through a lot of pushes and pulls before it becomes, shall we say, a documented learning. So unfortunately, universities have to rely on mass education with 200-300 people here on knowledge which is a proven knowledge, broadly proven knowledge, which may be 10-15 year old. But that should not stop you from learning recently published papers which are available free of cost on the web, because they will give you cutting edge interpretations. It will give you cutting edge hypotheses. It will tell you about some experiments which are happening. You don't know which way the world is going to move. Universities cannot do mass education based on low probability ideas. So they are compelled to look at it. So the way it works out is that many universities come out with audit courses. So India design thinking, only IIT Mumbai had it when I checked it last year. I don't know if other colleges have it. So they did it
We
as an
also
audit
have
course.
it.
I'm so happy about it. So Mumbai IIT Powai was the first one to introduce it in India. So uh, optional, it need not be mandatory. So there are many ways of creating audit courses or optional courses. There are universities, especially in US, where student can design their own course, but well, onus is on them to get student enrollment. So actually in Berkeley, in Brown, you can design your own course. If you can't design the course, you can always start your club. Supposing you say, I'm going to start a communication club, or I'm going to start an analytics club. So I would like to believe that students now are very smart. They have access to global knowledge. And I think the universities can easily provide an enabling platform like global universities do. Start your club on analytics. And then like minded 10-15 people come together. And well, they are learning and they invite a professor. And the professor also gives the knowledge because he or she is also very excited about talking about analytics. And suddenly you have a movement where more and more people are interested in it. And it's a matter of time that the college takes it and makes it a formal mandatory course for first year students later. So one has to understand that one has to go through this knowledge, but just because you're being taught what is proven knowledge of last 10 or 15 years need not stop any student from learning about what is happening tomorrow. Everything is available on a fingertip on the on Google, for example. Thank you. Or in your library. I went to London Business School for a session, and I went to their library because it's exciting to see a library. The library was all laptops, oh sorry, desktops. So library was series of screens where students are just doing some work on it. Same thing happened at INSEAD in Singapore. It's all computers. So there is knowledge available everywhere. You can do it from your laptop or your mobile now. Thank you.
So we have one more question. Uh, the question is, what qualities does interviewers see while selecting students for providing placements in digital marketing companies?
Don't go by that. Please, please. The word has changed. The word has changed. Don't try to fit yourself into some past knowledge of a recruiter. You create a space for yourself. So if you have a blog with followers, if you have already done some work on digital space, if you have created campaign as a volunteer in a a social enterprise or on a NGO, and that is your resume, nobody is going to stop you. These things can be very tricky. I remember, it's an old story, but I must share it with you, that somebody I knew actually wanted, after engineering, went to UK for MBA, came back and joined a Bangalore music band. I think it's the most popular band in Bangalore. He was drummer there. And here was Red Bull looking for a culture marketing person. My cousin was the CMO of Red Bull at that time in India. And sure enough, he located this guy who was an MBA and a drummer in Bangalore. And parents, my friends, were really pushing him to go back to corporate world. And this guy became a culture marketing manager in Red Bull. So unpredictable career move is going to be a reality for tomorrow. Nobody is going to interview you. And trust me, if you go for interview with Google or Microsoft, you know how many rounds of non-HR interview they have? They have typically a dozen round of interviews, even for a trainee. So we are talking about not an interview to impress somebody. These are old techniques. Go ahead, learn them. But they are necessary, but they are not sufficient conditions. You need to be creating a profile for yourself. You need to be very clear in your mind, where do you want to go? You need to be targeting companies rather than standing in front of a company and saying, choose me. You need to be convincing them why you are better than anybody else. And if they don't take you, it's their loss and not yours, is the kind of attitude with which you have to go. So my submission to you is, the days in which we used to apply, I used to work for Unilever, Hindustan Lever for a long time. The way people will apply for Hindustan Lever, go for a group discussion, an interview, and all that is over. Of course, there are still many traditional company. If somebody wants to apply to Axiata Group, my Malaysian global company will say, please send your resume. But these are old way of working. Real thing is, you decide where you want to go, target the top 10 companies in India or globally in that, and prove yourself to be good for it. It may take time, but so be it. So please change, turn it upside down is my strong recommendation to you, because it becomes very unpredictable otherwise. Thank you.
One last question, sir, uh, with your permission. Uh, like you talked about different skills that are required in today's world, and you had mentioned a few of the things like emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence is not taken up in school or any university. So, how can the students acquire that skill?
All right. When many years back I was doing my MBA at IIM Ahmedabad, we were told that women are born MBAs because they have a lot of emotional maturity. I'm not trying to be sexist, but I'm giving you a fact of life. So maybe get your friend in your class to teach you how to be very mature in emotional intelligence. See, maturity comes through experiences, and these experiences need not be job experiences. If you go for a trek together, a tough, difficult trek together, if you do an attempt to a startup in your college, if you go and participate in the programs which are beyond your comfort zone, you will be repeat. Or if you just decide to build a six pack, you would be going beyond your comfort zone. And if you are able to read yourself at that time, that is going to help you confront yourself in terms of your emotional intelligence, because it will question you. Even if you say, I'm not a very physically engaged person, go for a Vipassana course for all I care. But understanding yourself is going to help you prepare yourself better. And there are people around you who may be inspiring you, because that's the beauty of being in a college with reputed professors or with fellow students. They can teach you a lesson or two about how to be more adept at emotional intelligence. You know, colleges do these group assignments, group sessions. Why do they do it? So that you learn the dynamics of the group. Now, some people will say, I will just cruise, let me just sit there, let them put my name there. I will do only the conclusion part of the assignment. We have done it all. But there are people who engage more, and I know these people, at least from my batch. Professor Milind will also remember that people who used to be very actively engaged in such group discussions are in globally best position. Let me take an example of our common batchmate, Mukul Devras. He is the global CMO for Colgate, by no means a small company. So you have people who get more engaged today will develop better understanding of how to navigate through the environment tomorrow, and that will create greater chances of success for you in the real life. So please do engage more. Don't go through a quiz 1, test 1, quiz 2, test 2, final exam out. That is going to be a pity in terms of how you invest your time for the coming 1, 2, 3, 4 years of your life in NorthCap.
Now I request Professor Milind Padalkar for the concluding remarks.
Before I conclude, I have one question for Pradeep.
Sir.
Pradeep, I have students who come up to me and say, सर वो जॉब बेंगलोर में है लेकिन पापा कहते हैं कि घर के पास ही रहना. So what am I missing? What is your opinion on that?
Professor, it's a very big dilemma. I have worked for just 10, 12 years outside India, and I don't know whether I belong to my hometown in central India, or do I go back to Mumbai, which had become my majority of working career. So what is home for any migrant becomes a big challenge. In fact, there are people who have traveled to US, they settle down in US and they miss India. So that dilemma is there, whether you move from Gurgaon to Bangalore, or you move from Gurgaon to Silicon Valley, or you move to some unknown cultures in Korea or in China or wherever. So this is a dilemma. But the choices are yours. The choices are yours in terms of what you want to achieve in life. There are people I know who are very happy to have spent a lifetime in their hometown, living amongst the loved ones and enjoying life to the fullest in its richness. Have they done well successfully in their career? For example, some of my friends in Jabalpur in central India, answer is no, but it doesn't matter to them. While somebody else may have spent a lifetime in, say, Mumbai or a Delhi or wherever and build a certain career and prosperity for themselves, while I have friends who are in Singapore or in US and they are doing very well for themselves. So I think it's not a question of what dad is saying, because unfortunate reality of life is that dad is unlikely to be there 30 years from now, 40 years from now. You got to make up your mind, what are you willing to go for? What is it that you really want to do in your life, and what are you willing to sacrifice for that? I know of people who, after phenomenal IIT, IIM, and whatnot, this gentleman I know is now taking coaching for IIT entrance, and he is very clear what he wants to do in his life. So I think it is not about what dad says, but it's about what is your trip in life. What is your game? What is it that you want to do? I think they need to ask themselves more than asking you. If they had asked me, I would say that global career opens up the world to you, because India, at the end of the day, India is like a frog in the well. When you go out, you see how big the world is, but there are many, many, many sacrifices as you step out of your comfort zones and anchor locations and home base and go to other big cities or other countries. It's not an easy journey. This is all I can say, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you. So, dear students, discover your trip in life. Probably best sums it up. Know yourself, discover yourselves, start working on your life now. Let it not be your papa's trip, let it be your trip. Because the future will be yours, and the future is not certain, and therefore you will have to understand and get very, very intimately interested in figuring out where you fit. Your opportunity to learn is in your classrooms, and your opportunity to learn is outside the classrooms. Both will matter. And you have to communicate well, you have to apply your classroom knowledge well. That's basically going outside the classroom again. and get very interested, build networks, learn from each other. Those are the high messages or high points that we heard from Pradeep today as we saw the world from his eyes, and his eyes have indeed seen a lot of world. So on behalf of NorthCap University, let us thank Pradeep for spending his time with us. And Pradeep, we expect to interact more and more with you. This is the first,
Always.
but not the last.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And once again, all the best to all the students who start their journey with NorthCap now. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye, sir.
Bye-bye. So Payal, with that, we can close the session.
Yes, sir. I thank everyone for joining the session. Thank you, sir.